What is a true fact so baffling, it should be false? There used to be a radioactive energy drink called Radithor that was in the U.S. market for a decade from 19,181,928. Some of the more prominent users had to be buried in lead coffins. Didn't they take that off the market after some guy drank so many of them so quick that his lower jaw fell off? Nuka-Cola. There is a 1 in roughly 5.2 to the 61st power chance that if you were to slap a table, all of the molecules in your hand and the table would miss each other and your hand would go through it. Story time. I learned this fact from a deep intellectual conversation with my engineering class 2 years ago. So there very well could be some kind of detail I am missing here. But nonetheless, what I said is theoretically true. Giant squids have a donut-shaped brain so their esophagus can run through the middle. If they try to swallow too large a bite of food they can get brain damage. You could take away all of Wayne Gretzkys' goals that he scored during his career and he would still be the all-time NHL points leader off his assists alone. Bonus Gretzky fact: he and his brother own the record for being the highest-scoring pair of siblings. Brent had 4 points in his whole career. Of every father-son combo in NHL history, Wayne and Trevor Gretzky have the most goals. Trevor Gretzky was a baseball player. The youngest mother to give birth became pregnant at 4 years old. She's still alive and resides in Lima, Peru apparently. Lena Medina had a rare condition whereby her body went through puberty very early, making it possible for her to conceive a child. Her son was born via caesarean section when she was 5 years and 7 months old, and was raised as her younger brother. The father was never fully confirmed, though suspicion fell on male family members. The girl herself obviously had no clear recollection. Greater than to give birth, that qualification implies something so much worse. That's as disgusting as it is interesting. You can boil water in a paper cup over an open flame. I thought witchcraft was outlawed. My dad showed me this when I was 4. Blew my mind. Won too many bets on camping trips saying I could put a styrofoam cup in the middle of the campfire and it would not burn. Didn't mention I'd fill it with water first even so. Still had non-believers as I was placing it in the fire. If a gorilla looks grumpy, it's because they are relaxed and at ease. Resting BTCH face. There are far more tigers in private collections in Texas than there are in the rest of the world, wild or otherwise. Greenland extends east of, west of, south of and north of Iceland. The USA is the third most populated nation on Earth. If you were able to add 1 billion people to the U.S. population today, it would still be the third most populated nation on Earth. A morbidly obese person can survive with absolute starvation without any sickness or feeling ill. Under close control. There have been studies since 60s. There is a patient in 1973 who went under a 382-day starvation diet for therapeutic purposes under close control with only vitamin and mineral supplements and water intake without protein, carbohydrate or fat intake, no food at all. Dropped from 207 kilograms to 88 kilograms and maintained it. After a follow-up checkup 5 years later, the patient was 96 kilograms. Stabilized. Prolonged fasting had no ill effects. If anybody is curious about the article, the PubMed ID is PMC2495396. Keep in mind for anyone tempted to imitate. Multiple others attempted this after him and wound up dead. Do not try this at home. People were deliberately infected with malaria to cure their syphilis, and the man who developed this treatment, Julius Wagner Wareg, received the Nobel Prize for it. The extremely high fevers of the malaria infections killed the syphilis bacteria. Then the patients were cured of the malaria using quinine. Quinine is the reason tonic water glows under black light. I mean, there was no antibiotics at the time and syphilis was extremely dangerous and life-threatening. It was novel, and it worked most of the time. Ireland was a net exporter of food during the Great Potato Famine. That's what caused the famine. The Brits exported all the food and the Irish were left with only one small kind of potato for themselves, which then was afflicted with disease. Not really by choice. IIRC. Giraffes eat bones. When I was in Africa, we were legit surrounded by a family of 12 giraffes. Then one bent over and picked up a gazelle carcass, looked dead into our eyes as it ate its leg. It was so ducking creepy. Of all the possible giraffe facts to go with, you don't go with the fact that giraffe liver and bone marrow might be a hallucinogen. Hashtag exploitation and conservation status. Most herbivores do. Also feathers and eggshells, often while they are still on or around the live bird. More people died making the V-2 rockets during WW2 than were killed by them. Another fun fact about V-2 rockets: Germany was facing a large issue with rocket fuel shortages during the project because people kept drinking it. The fuel was made from 70% ethyl alcohol and 30% water, distilled from potatoes. It was the most economically viable fuel at the time, since they were already very low on other fuels. To stop workers from drinking it, they denatured the alcohol, essentially poisoning it, but people kept drinking it anyways and getting extremely ill. This simply caused people to start leaving the V2 program, suggesting that they were only in it for the free alcohol. This also means that any alcohol over 70% ABV is stronger than actual WW2 rocket fuel. Was this because of deplorable conditions in slave labor camps or because of manufacturing accidents? Sauce fail rate is over 80%. I personally know someone who in his carry-on accidentally packed a loaded handgun, made it on the plane, and was so freaked out when he landed, he upset it back home and took a Greyhound bus after his trip. I know a dumbass that flew internationally with a handgun in his checked luggage on accident, but still a dumb asshole. He left out of Florida heading for South Korea with a layover in Japan. The Japanese found it and he was arrested and spent over 2 weeks in jail. They let him go. A total friend of mine did the same with a folding knife. I got through the TSA with 24 boxes of European Kinder eggs. My dad on his trip to Florida decided to take his hunting backpack as a carry-on on his airplane. He got through TSA with no issues. But when he went to Universal Studios and had to get through security there, they stopped him and told him that he had a knife in his backpack. He had forgotten to clean out a side zipper in his backpack that had a hunting knife in it. That's right, his hunting knife got through sauce security, but was caught by the security at Universal Studios Orlando. What a world. The life of Frane Selak, the luckiest unlucky man in the world. January 1962, Frane is riding on a train through a freezing canyon when it fell into an icy river. All 17 other passengers died while he escapes with a broken arm and hypothermia. 1963, on his first plane trip he was sucked out of the plane's door and landed in a haystack, unscathed. 19 other people were killed in the crash. 1966, he was riding in a bus when it skidded off the road into yet another icy river. 4 passengers drowned while he only received some minor cuts and bruises. 1970, his car's engine burst into flames while he was driving, but he managed to escape before it exploded. 1973, in yet another driving incident, his car's engine was doused with hot oil from a broken fuel pump. This caused flames to shoot through the air vents, singing off all of his hair. He was otherwise unharmed. 1995, he was hit by a bus but only sustained minor injuries. 1996, to escape a head-on collision with a United Nations truck on a mountain curve, he swerved into a guardrail that broke on impact. To save himself, he jumped out of his car's open door and grabbed onto a tree branch as he watched his car plummet off the cliff. Suffice to say, the guy had a complicated relationship with the Grim Reaper. Thank you for watching. Comment no if you have reached this far into the video. Have a good day.